Salam Tana, Aina Ist Eling. Now the third day of Kwanzaa, the first fruits of the harvest. His Imperial Majesty, Haile Selassie, he stated that sometimes the seed that you plant doesn't always bear the desired fruit. And I'm mentioning that because since we're speaking about Kwanzaa, and we've been speaking about over these 7 days, you understand, these first 2-3 days so far, but to speak about over these 7 days, Yah willing, we just want to touch on a little bit of the background, because we only have a limited time frame in this particular time frame to speak on these things. You understand, on the YouTubes, the 10-minute postings, so forth and so on. But on the Nguzo Saba and the 7 principles, we've touched on Umoja, unity, in particular African unity, Kujichagulia, self-determination, even emanating from the time of Dr. Malaku Emmanuel Bayan and the establishment of the Ethiopian World Federation, which many black people in the Americas, much less Ethiopians at home and abroad, know little of and have shirked their responsibility to be involved in that. But that's a whole discussion in and of itself. But now we're touching on the third principle of Kwanzaa, which is Ujima. Ujima is collective work and responsibility. Now, what does Ujima mean? What does collective work and responsibility mean? And also to note how connected that is to the fourth principle, Ujama, you understand, which is the fourth day of Kwanzaa principles that should be expounded upon. You understand, from a wise mind perspective. Now, why I say that is because most people, when they think of in Kwanzaa, and black people, when they say Ujima, Ujama, usually you hear this popular refrain, think black, act black, buy black. You understand? So we're focusing so-called on a color, you understand? Or some would say lack of light, in a sense, or where light comes from. But the light shines in the darkness. You understand? The light shines in the light is not the darkness. You understand? So what is that light? That light is wisdom. You understand? And the wisdom of His Imperial Majesty has been severely neglected and ignored for the last 40 years at least. You understand, by both Ethiopians at home and abroad, Africans at home and abroad, and last but not least, we in the diaspora, you understand, over in the Americas and the Caribbean and scattered throughout the world, have lacked, you understand, lacked those teachings, the teachings of His Imperial Majesty. And I have to address this right here, because this is the prerequisite leading into the whole idea of collective work and responsibility. First, let's define that for the third day and the third day's principle: to build and maintain our community together, and to make our sisters and our brothers and our mothers' problems our problems, and to solve them together. That is a general overview of Ujima, collective work and responsibility. And as we've been doing over these couple of days for Kwanzaa this year, you understand, in this historic and prophetic time, we've been touching on the various words as well as the works of the conquering line of the tribe of Judah, Edamawi Haile Selassie, Siyuma Igziabia Negusa Neges Zechopia, the elect of God, the King of Kings of Ethiopia. Based on his selected speeches of His Imperial Majesty, we want to address Ujima. And as we went into Ujima, we began to notice the connection between Ujima and Ujama, collective work and responsibility and cooperative economics. And touching on the wisdom of our forefather, you understand, of the father of modern Africa, before that new birth was aborted both from within and without over the last 30 to 40 years, we noticed there wasn't one particular area that we could touch on that doesn't dovetail and link into the other. You understand? Especially from the word and the work of His Imperial Majesty. We notice that if His Imperial Majesty had not manifested and come along and did the work which he did, which many evil Ethiopians and wicked Ethiopians, both at home and abroad, you understand, have sought to tarnish, have sought to suppress, have sought to lie and slander against and deceive themselves and others into make-believing that His Imperial Majesty is a wicked and evil man, and he did all this that's part of their imagination, their evil imagination. Because the facts are different than their fantasies. If His Imperial Majesty never came forward, you understand, Ethiopia would be in the same position. Modern Ethiopia. You think Ethiopia is bad now? If His Imperial Majesty had not come forward, you understand, at that prophetic time and hour, Ethiopia would be Afghanistan. You understand? And we'll be talking about troops, American troops probably, and world troops, you understand, in Ethiopia right now, just like they're talking about what's going on in Afghanistan and in Pakistan and all those that obviously don't understand, overstand, or never had a man like the King of Kings of Ethiopia to come to them and to speak to them. You see how blessed we are as a people? But you see how we have turned that blessing into a curse. You understand? Because of that lack. You understand? That lack of knowledge. My people die because of lack of knowledge. First of all, let's touch on something on Ujima before this particular segment closes right here. Let's touch on Ujima. We're going to touch on the visit to Awasa in the economic development section of the selected speeches of His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I. And there's much more that we could touch on, but let's touch on this. His Imperial Majesty says in his visit to Awasa, realizing the great potentialities of cooperative community action in national progress and development, we established the Ministry of National Community Development as early as 1957. Our chief concern, so we emphasize that because some people would try to make it seem like, well, these are just words. No, they are word and work. You understand? Fact, reality. Our chief concern has been to improve life and living conditions of our people, especially the weaker section of our society, like nomads who live in underdeveloped regions of our empire. You understand this? Because the word and the work and the command and directive of His Imperial Majesty was ignored by pseudo so-called middle-class intellectuals and ungrateful so-called protesting students and others who have taken the benefit of their education and basically stolen that from Ethiopia, becoming a liability and going to Western and other people's lands, you understand, to build it up, and ignoring, you understand, the problems and the progress of Ethiopia. 1973, 85, and 1990 something recently, and who knows what will happen in the 2000s. But moving forward, His Imperial Majesty goes on to state that in the world of today, community development is universally recognized as, quote, a process designed to create conditions of economic and social progress for the whole community, with active participation and largely dependent upon the initiative of the community, end quote. What does that mean? Think and meditate on that. The initiative of the community. If the community lacks the initiative, salam tana, aina ist eling.